How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs co-beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in today. As you guys know now, Week 1 has concluded for the Kansas City Chiefs, and unfortunately, they will be starting their campaign in the losing column. They dropped the game 27-21. The Los Angeles Chargers, they looked good. I got to give them credit out there. They were very aggressive. They scored in every single quarter that they played in. They were able to hold the Chiefs' offense at bay. Their defense played well. Kudos to the Los Angeles Chargers. But from your standpoint and wanting to watch this video, we've got a few takeaways that I want to dive into that I have written down. And you got to keep in mind that this is just the first week of the season. It does not mean that the Chiefs franchise is crumbling right before our eyes. It just means, the Chargers were just the better team that game. I did make a note, though, that dating back to the Super Bowl loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, the Chiefs have now lost 5 straight, if you include the preseason games. I know some people don't. I think that the pros do, or at least they should, because it is motivation. They're just in a weird spell right now for the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of doubt is being thrown their way. However, when you look at things on paper, there were opportunities for the Chiefs to capitalize on, and they could have won this game. But there was also moments where it was just kind of like from the get-go, the Chargers just looked like they wanted it more. Here are a few talking points that I ran into. Immediately, a big concern that the Chiefs had was Xavier Worthy being knocked down to begin the game, or relatively close to the beginning of the game, by Travis Kelce. Completely accidental, but he went down with a shoulder injury and was, immediately taken off the field. He had a towel over his head when he headed into the locker room. It was reported that he went to go get some x-rays. That could not fare well for the Kansas City Chiefs if it does end up being a injury prolonged, especially because that Xavier Worthy is the backup fill-in option for Rashee Rice. Now that we know that Rashee Rice will be suspended for the first 6 weeks of the campaign, and it kind of showed in the wide receiving room today that when you don't have those players in Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, you take a lot of momentum out of the Chiefs wide receiving room. I understand that Tyquan Thornton had a good preseason, but he was tried. The Chiefs wanted to get him involved, and while it could have been a lot of overthrows by Patrick Mahomes, there just seemed to be just kind of a miscommunication, a misconnection, and all that when it came to those deep passes. Thornton did make a nice catch, though, finally bringing in one reception, or a big reception, that is. He had 2 receptions. He had 41 yards, and a guy who has fought for his spot on this roster. It looked very good. Moving forward, though, there was a lot to adjust for the Kansas City Chiefs. You also got to keep in mind, though, if they're playing this way against the Los Angeles Chargers, a team that made the playoffs last season, it's not a loss that you should be kicking your feet at. This is a playoff team. They have been projected in winning the AFC West for a reason. Not because the Chiefs are going to continue their slide, but they have a good chance because they got some talented players. But for the Kansas City Chiefs as well, there was a lot of rookie mistakes going into the game. We kind of had to know that there was going to be some rookies that would make their mistakes. They are still learning. It's a different game. It's a different curve. It's a different level at the National Football League. Josh Simmons, he had a few penalties, and those are kind of inexcusable. Some of the ones that weren't inexcusable came from Jawan Taylor, that kind of pushed the Chiefs and kind of killed some momentum here and there. A lot of penalties towards him on Friday. But, that, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, it is not an end all be all. It could definitely mean that, Taylor for the rest of his season is going to be up on the up and up. Hopefully that this is the floor. They also had, like I said, multiple opportunities to capitalize on drives. There was a lot of passes that could have been caught, a lot of butterfingers, maybe some week one jitters. Hollywood Brown was a busy guy out there especially once Xavier Worthy was taken off the field. He had the most receiving yards and targets and receptions. But there was a moment in that game where it was kind of fearful that there was a laser beam of a throw to Hollywood Brown, and it just he had it, must have just taken his eyes off of it because it went right through his hands, and he walked off of the field patting his chest, kind of saying, "My bad." It's a universal thing that they all do, and even we do not even as athletes. If we mess up, just my bad. The second quarter, though, the defense did come to play. The second quarter was the best defensively, I would say. They did, arguably it has to be because they were held to just a touchdown, 6 points, and all the other points scored in the game were 7 or more. When you look at it that way, but there was a lot of positivity to take away on the defensive side in that corner. Overall, though, I think that this defense can play much better than the way that they displayed tonight, or rather on Friday. Drew Tranquill, he's had a good game on defense as well. Chris Jones kind of hopefully needs, looking to step it up a little bit. Ashton Gelati, who was out there for a few reps as well. There was a lot of, even in the backfield, rather, if you want to even look at and all that, Jamari Connor, he was a force to be reckoned with. Nick Bolton is always a guy that you can rely on. Trent McDuffie was out there. George Karlaftis got caught with a few penalties early, but he did make his presence known. I don't think that this is a game that should be looked at in a negative light. There's a lot to learn from this game and a lot to improve on. And would you have rather gone into a week 2 game against the Philadelphia Eagles with a victory? Of course. But that's not the case now. The case is you lost. You gotta, kind of take it on the chin and start going at it. That you can't change the result now. The next opponent on the schedule is the Eagles at home at Arrowhead, where you want to give your fandom and your fan base something to root for. Patrick Mahomes, all in all, though, in a final review, he performed very well. Had the most rushing yards. He had 258 passing yards. He had a touchdown, both a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. 0 interceptions. He was evasive when defenders were coming after him. All in all, my final review of the game. The Chiefs, there were opportunities to win it, but it almost seemed like the Chargers wanted it more. That's fine. It's only week 1. There's 17 more weeks to be played in the National Football League season. And the Kansas City Chiefs, like I said in several podcasts in the past, this is going to be a tough stretch of the schedule. The first 9 weeks, you've got to win the games that you're expected to win. You've got to be competitive in the games that you're expected to have that competition. This was a playoff team tonight. You got a playoff team next week coming into your home stadium. They got to make sure that they get some things tightened up, and I'm sure that that's going to be a topic of improvement come in the following days in practice and all that. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, as always, you should follow me over at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day, all things Kansas City Chiefs. You're not going to want to miss it because the 2025 season is now here. Be sure to also follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI. Every single one of our stories gets published there, exclusively free for you, the audience. Kansas City Chiefs on SI is a place to get your podcasts, all things Chiefs. We're the place to be. As always, be kind to one another. And I'll see you tomorrow